After the NATO summit in The Hague, Russia's war against Ukraine is reaching a completely new level. Today, Ukraine withdrew from the Ottawa Convention, which prohibits the use, stockpiling, and production of anti-personnel mines. President Zelensky signed the corresponding decree today, and this is a very important step, because recently all Eastern European countries also withdrew from this convention in order to fully mine all borders with Russia and Belarus. Moreover, this shows that all the old rules of warfare are no longer relevant, and the North Atlantic Alliance is ready to do anything to protect its borders from Russian aggression. Ukraine, for its part, is showing who is keeping pace with NATO. Well, before we begin, let me say that Russia has never had anything to do with this convention at all. What all this means for Ukraine and NATO, we will discuss with you in this episode. My name is Pechiy. Today is June 29th on the calendar. Next, everything in order. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and write any comment you like. Also subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. So, the People's Deputy, Secretary of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence, Roman Kostenko, was the first to make the following statement today, and I quote, "I was just informed that the President of Ukraine has signed a decree putting into effect the decision of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine on our country's withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention, an international treaty that prohibits the use, stockpiling, and production of anti-personnel mines." Let me clarify right away for understanding those so-called petals that have already caused injuries. Unfortunately, many Ukrainian civilians and soldiers have been injured by these very anti-personnel mines, but not only them. And the whole paradox is that Russia has never been a participant in this convention. That's why Ukraine's withdrawal from this convention is a step that the reality of this war has long demanded. Once again, Russia is not a party to this convention and is massively, I emphasize, massively using mines against our military and civilians. And as Kostenko stated, quote, "We cannot remain bound under conditions where the enemy has no restrictions at all." At the same time, he noted that now this issue is expected to be considered in the Verkhovna Rada. Quote, "The legislative consolidation of this decision should finally return to Ukraine the right to effectively defend its territory." And later, official information appeared that President Zelensky really did sign a decree on Ukraine's withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine published a statement explaining the reasons for Ukraine's withdrawal and emphasized that they had conscientiously fulfilled their obligations under this convention. Since 2005, however, circumstances have changed significantly due to the invasion of the wild Russians. Next is a quote from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. "The Russian Federation, not being a state party to the Ottawa Convention, unleashed armed aggression against Ukraine. Since 2014, they have been widely using anti-personnel mines as a method of warfare. Since 2022, when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of our country, their massive use of such means has created an asymmetric advantage for the aggressor. At the time of signing the convention, Ukraine could not have foreseen a large-scale war, and today has every right to reconsider its obligations. This decision is based on the provision of the United Nations Charter regarding the right to self-defense and the need to protect its own population." And here I want to point out a very important and paradoxical point. The fact is that after the start of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia announced their withdrawal from that very Ottawa Convention. This decision is explained by the need to ensure the protection of their borders. On March 18 of this year, the defense ministers of Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania issued a joint statement about withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention. And now I will quote from this joint statement. "In light of this unstable security situation marked by Russia's aggression and the constant threat it poses to the Euro-Atlantic community, it is extremely important to identify all measures that can help strengthen our deterrence and defense capabilities. Therefore, in the current security environment, it is crucial to provide the armed forces with flexibility and options regarding the potential use of modern weapon systems and solutions to strengthen the defense of the alliance's eastern flank. Our countries are ready and able to use any means necessary to protect our territory and freedom. However, despite withdrawals from the Convention, our countries remain committed to international humanitarian law, including the protection of civilians during armed conflicts. Our countries will continue to adhere to these principles while also protecting our security. A little later, Finland, which shares a border with Russia, also decided to withdraw from this Ottawa Convention. President Alexander Stubb of Finland noted that Finland is committed to its international obligations regarding the responsible use of mines and will always remain a responsible player in the world, protecting its security and defense. In short, absolutely. The eastern flank of NATO withdrew from this convention because of the constant threat from the wild Russians. And finally, let me remind you that the Convention on the Prohibition of the Use, Stockpiling, Production and Transfer of Anti-Personnel Mines and on their Destruction was adopted on September 18, 1997. Its participants undertake never to use anti-personnel mines, as well as not to develop, produce, acquire, store or transfer them either directly or through intermediaries. Ukraine became a member of this convention in 1999 when it came into force, but the agreement was ratified by the Verkhovna Rada only in May 2005. During the same period, all European countries joined this convention and even began destroying their stockpiles of these anti-personnel mines. But it should be noted that China, Russia, India, Pakistan and the United States have never joined this convention. So it turns out that Russia has been using anti-personnel mines against Ukrainians since 2014. Against Ukraine, which is defending itself from Russian aggression and has adhered to international law and the laws of war all these years. Well, it's time for us to abandon humanity when it comes to Russian terrorists. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions on this topic in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so financially by donating through the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. Or you can simply become a sponsor of this channel right here on the platform. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.